Everyone is different. But for some people, being different can prove an obstacle to participating in society, whether it's finding work, being a member of a club, making friends, or connecting with people in general. This might pertain to people with psychiatric problems, people with an intellectual disability, people with different cultural or religious backgrounds, or refugees. Kwartiermaken is about celebrating difference and welcoming people who often don't feel at home in society. The people who practice kwartiermaken, so-called kwartiermakers, try to work towards a more inclusive society, a society where people who might be considered different can feel they belong to and participate in, according to their own wishes and capabilities. Kwartiermaken is a verb. It's about doing and about creating opportunities to bring people together, whether this is in the street, in a neighborhood, in a village or a city. Ideally, kwartiermaken occurs in a setting that is as natural as possible. For example, during a community center coffee morning, or whilst growing vegetables in the communal garden, or when creating a work of art together. There are three important principles for those who practice kwartiermaken: recognition, hospitality, and suspension, being able to put things on hold. First, there is the recognition that not everyone in society can participate on an equal footing. Secondly, people who feel excluded from society wish for more hospitality, a desire to feel more welcome. Precisely what this hospitality might entail is what kwartiermaken tries to determine, for example, through consultation with all those involved. This process is ultimately a study in perceived exclusion and how inclusion can best be achieved. With regard to the third principle, one might ask, which matters should be suspended in order to make room for being different? Sometimes the accepted way of doing things, be it through rules and regulations or tradition, is counterproductive and should be avoided. We might also summarize this latter question in a specific slogan: which extraordinary thing should be done for the extraordinary other, whether this is in the workplace, in the sports club or the choir, the church or the mosque, during volunteer work, at school, at the social services or welfare offices. The French philosopher Derrida is very firm in this suspension of society's accepted way of doing things. In his essay on hospitality, he asks, must we require a foreigner to speak the language, to behave like everyone else before we welcome them? Derrida makes the point that through the act of providing hospitality, the host or hostess can also find themselves in unknown territory, and consequently out of their comfort zone. Kwartiermakers do not define people by their disability, they rather focus on people's abilities, whilst not neglecting the vulnerability, stigmatization and exclusion that often accompanies disability. Kwartiermakers strive for a society in which strength and vulnerability can coexist. Kwartiermakers foster and promote niches. A niche refers to a place in society where people who are different feel they can be themselves in freedom and safety. In a community center, for example, places where their vulnerability is not met with misunderstanding. A niche is an empowering environment. It aims to empower people. A society with a greater variety of niches is in itself more powerful, offering more people a better quality of life. Wonderful though it sounds, a niche also runs the risks of being too protective an environment, one where people might find themselves isolated from reality. For example, a community center may be a safe haven, but if it doesn't function as a working model for society, then something's wrong. This can happen, for example, when things we often take for granted in society, work, sport and other leisure facilities, remain inaccessible, or if professionals aren't focused enough on opportunities for participation. Kwartiermaken can also be characterized as working towards involvement of people who might be considered different. Organizing a Kwartiermakers festival is a fruitful and inspiring way to realize this. The visual arts, theatre, poetry, dance and music offer people who are marginalized the chance to take center stage. Such artistic endeavors help challenge and dispel old-fashioned ideas of people with a disability and reinforce the desire of them to participate and belong. The same can be said of the storytelling or photo voice method, where people share their stories or show a picture that is meaningful to them. This could, for example, include experiences of a psychiatric patient, whereby stigmatization is brought to light, or the process of recovery is illustrated. These stories and photos are then used to make yourself and your experiences more visible, for example in schools and in community centers. Another way is to organize buddy projects. People struggling with exclusion will often say that they have been helped by a buddy, someone who helps them negotiate a seemingly inhospitable world. The buddy makes sure that this person feels at home, and when necessary, also helps others to feel at home around this newcomer. Buddies break the ice. The buddies, in turn, often report on how satisfying it is to mean so much to someone who, through this contact, gains a new perspective on a meaningful life. For more information on Kwartiermaken, please visit www.kwartiermaken.nl.